So we are going to be adding quite a few animation effects to our song snippets file. So this is what our file looks like. We are going to be adding a very subtle animation to the title that's going to play the entire time the page displays. We are going to have animation on our different boxes here with the lyrics when the page loads. And we're also going to have animation on every single section so that when you point at the section, it's going to get a little bit bigger. So we have quite a few animated tricks that we are going to apply to song snippets. And the first thing that we're going to do is animate our title. And we have all of the CSS in a separate file. So let's open up our song snippet CSS file. And this is another one that has keyframes. And so we are going to add the keyframes. And we're going to give it a name of Pulse. And this is going to be another one with percentage. And what we're going to do is set the color to lemon chiffon. We'll do a text shadow of 1 pixel and make it black. And then at 50%, I'm going to copy this because we are going to be changing those. So at 50%, the color is going to change. So it is no longer going to be the lovely lemon chiffon. We're going to be changing it to a shade of blue. And now our text shadow is going to be lemon chiffon, but we want to kind of move the shadow away from the text. So for horizontal and vertical, we're going to make it 10 pixels, and then we're going to add a slight blur to the text. And let me make sure I've got my hex number right. Let's see. 0C1 78F. Yep, that looks right. Okay. And then we've got 100%. And that is color of dark goldenrod. And we're going to do a text shadow of 1px, 1px, and dark gray. Okay, so let's apply this. And I'm going to do that above here. We're going to create a little pulse class. And we're going to use an animation property that lets us specify the name, the time, and the duration. So the name is pulse. We want it to go for 5 seconds, and we're going to have it go an infinite number of times. And let's save this. All right, so at this point, I'm going to save, and I'm going to reload. Okay, and it's not going to do anything because we have to add class of pulse. Always helps if you apply it to your HTML. So let's go back in here, and where our title is, up in our H1, class equal pulse. There we go. Let's save that, and now let's reload. Here we go. And that is exactly what it's supposed to do. And it will just go do it an infinite number of times as long as the page displays. So that is animating our title. The next thing we're going to do is apply hover animation to all of our sections. So we are going to go back into our CSS, and we want to do animation on section hover. And I'm going to pause while I key all of this in. So we've got section hover, and the first thing we're going to do is scale the sections. And so we're going to make them about 25% bigger. So I've got 1.25, which is going to make them 25% bigger. If I wanted to make them 25% smaller, I would put 0.75. If I wanted 50% bigger, I would do 1.50. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. I'm also going to apply a box shadow to them. I'm going to change the background color to kind of a light blue. I am going to round the corners and apply a little bit more padding to the boxes. So they are going to get bigger, different background color, more pronounced shadow when we point at them. So I'm going to save this. And this is going to be applied to all sections. Okay, so all of the sections that we have in article will be affected, and so will the section at the bottom. So let us reload. Okay, and right now I'm pointing at the bottom, and you can see it is impacted. And this is what that looks like. And it looks pretty good on everything except the bottom. Got a little problem here that we have to fix. So we are going to need to add some styling for section all by itself. We already have some styling for section when it is a child of article. Okay, so we have this styled, but we don't have anything for section all by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. So for section, we're going to do a width of 75%. Margin left is going to be auto, and margin right is going to be auto, and that will center align the section. So let's save, and let's reload. Okay, so you can see how formatting section affected it, and now when we point at it, it does not enlarge off the page. We can still see it. And if we make it smaller, it still looks okay. So we've got the title, and we have the various sections modified. And the last thing we're going to do is add some animation for when the page loads. We want the boxes inside article to animate similar to what we did with famous quote with those boxes. So we're going to be using translate and rotate to make these animate. So back to our CSS. And this is another one with the keyframes. And I'm going to call this thing move in. And I'm using a capital I on in. And you guys can do upper or lowercase. I am going to pause this while I get all of the code in here. Okay, so the code that we're using in here is basically the same as what we did over in Famous Quote. We've got the translate Y, that's going to give us kind of that bouncing effect. So we've got from 0 down to 165, then we're rotating it 10 degrees, going back up to 0, rotating it the other direction, coming down to 100, going back up to 0, rotating 5, going down to 75. So you can kind of see we're rotating and moving it around. We also do a scale on this of 1.5. So it's going to get really big, but it'll go back to its original size. Okay, so that is all of the animation, and there is a lot of it. And then we are going to add this to article section because it's the sections inside article we want animated. So we are just going to use the animation property, and the name of the animation is move in, and it's going to run for 2 seconds. Okay, and again, if you made move in all lowercase, you got to remember to do that up there. And I'm going to save my changes and let us reload the page. Okay, and so now it animates when it first comes on. Our title continues to animate, and then we get this little effect when we point at the different sections. And at this point, we are done. So you're going to want to make sure you've saved all of your changes and upload this to your website.